Here we are in 3D web worlds at the Writers Roundabout. This is a place where, well, I like to call it the ideation place, the place where we practice getting ideas, and you can practice by yourself or you can practice with a group. And Evie is here to explain it to us in more detail. Evie.
Hi, Selby. Thanks for inviting me here today. So what we're going to do is start off by clicking this rotating question mark, and that gives you instructions of how to follow the roundabout exercises. And as you mentioned, the exercises can be performed as a solo exercise or as a group. So it's a great brainstorming tool to work with other people. But if you are a novelist or a creative writer, doing these exercises over and over again is a great disciplinary exercise, because sometimes you need to create different scenes and different ideas for your project. And this is a great way to collect those ideas and put them into a journal.
Yes. And so I thought what we would do is illustrate how this works. And I've already clicked on the question mark, and the viewers have had a chance to look at the text that comes up, in instructional text that comes up, and I'm thinking what you would normally do is go to one of these tables and pick one of the objects up and make stories from it. Is that right?
Well, the objects on the table are definitely there to give you an idea of what the exercise is. So in this particular case for table 1, it's household objects. So if someone was having a hard time looking around their environment and choosing an object, they could certainly choose an object that's on the table. But they also could look around their environment and choose anything that they see.
Oh, sure.
In order to complete the exercise.
Yeah, but now the point is, of course, if we're doing it in a group, we are all looking at a same collection of objects, and if you are skilled at developing plots, if you have practiced a while at developing plots, you would have no problem thinking of new ideas, but from any particular object that you might get. Now let's look at the objects that we have available on this table. And I'll have to zoom in on, well, I guess I need to walk up close to one.
Right. Looks like we have a tinfoil hat.
Ooh, tinfoil.
Oh, yes.
A cat litter box, which I definitely can attune to. An ice skate. A teddy bear. A telescope, and some spray paint.
Oh, yes.
So those are the objects on the table that we could begin working with.
Now, yeah, immediately on seeing the telescope, I recall a joke in which the lady called the police and complained about this man that was totally nude and right out there in public, and the policeman came to see that, and he walked out on the porch where she said he could be seen, and the policeman couldn't see anything, and she complained he didn't see it. She explained, well, no, of course not. You have to look through the telescope. And
that's funny.
So that leads us to, well, the many kinds of stories. So immediately, and one of the things I immediately think of in this context, one problem in any of these things is people tend to take too big a scope. You can't think of new ideas about everything. You have to focus down. That's why we have such things as a telescope, because now I can focus. I can't think of new ideas about just any old thing, but I can certainly think of new ideas about telescopes.
Right, exactly. I mean, so if you go through the list on the exercise, It would be really easy to write from the point of view of the telescope. Maybe it's a telescope that hasn't been used in a long time and it feels neglected and it's sitting in the corner.
Yes.
Right? Or and then the dialogue between you and yourself and the item. Maybe it reminds you of a time when you were a kid looking through the stars, so you can have a remembrance scene.
Yep.
Is that a word? Remembrance? Here we are in writing.
It is now.
Remembrance, yes.
I just meant, okay, thank you. And then like the scene with a hero using the object, it could literally be in a pack over your shoulder, and he's running down the street, or in a hero scene if you want to go for the superhero idea. But also as just a hero, that maybe they saw something through the telescope, or maybe that's how they relax.
Yeah. Well, and one of the, you're all already following one of the thoughts that I have, which would say, I would not want to simply take this as a passive object in the scene. I would want to make this a primary object in the scene. And so I've got a telescope now. This has to be something about a telescope. And as you say, one way is to personalize, turn the object into a person. And actually, that introduces a lot of novelty right away.
Right on the telescope.
It really does. It really becomes interesting when you start looking through the eyes of objects.
Yes, right. And another way, of course, is to think of the object as used, but not necessarily in its usual way. For example, I immediately, because I like detective stories, murder stories, I immediately think of this telescope may have been used to bludgeon somebody to death.
Right. Not in its normal use, but it was picked up and used.
That's correct. And then, of course, that would be a clue as to who did it, because that would be somebody who would be inclined to handle a telescope, and perhaps even to realize that a telescope could be used, is heavy enough to be used as a weapon.
Exactly right. Exactly. I love it. And so in this kind of idea, I love brainstorming like this. And so teachers can bring students in here to do this as a group exercise or as a solo exercise, or just someone wanting to work on their creative writing skills, or if they're writing a novel and need some inspiration, they can certainly write down these things and put them in a journal, or, as like we're doing a group exercise.
Yeah. Well, and the way the thing we're doing that would be of interest to a teacher of a group of writers is, I think this activity would begin to cause people, the students, to realize that they have techniques that they can use to become well informed, to become well skilled in ideation. It is not simply something that is people are born with. It is something. It is, or just like the skill of writing, it is something that people develop by practice.
Absolutely. When I'm teaching writing, one of the first things that I hear a lot from students is, I have no idea what to write about. And like you had mentioned, that sometimes you're looking at just this whole big, you're thinking too big instead of narrower. And so coming to this region and answering some of these questions is a great way to begin formulating ideas that you never would have had before.
Yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, we were just looking at a telescope, and depending on what we wanted to write about, we've already thought about several plots that could fit into a novel. If I were actually thinking about a scientific or popular scientific orientation, I would immediately think, I could write about telescopes, and I know that I can easily find out all sorts of interesting information about the history of telescopes and when they started and how they influenced history, and even why people have binoculars, and why binoculars have are spread wide apart. At least most of the professional binoculars. So those are ideas. Now I could if I wanted to write a technical piece of something that would go um, uh, something that is based on accurate information. I could develop that. I could develop that into an article. I don't nowadays. I don't know of anybody who publishes it, so I wouldn't even think about doing it.
Right, but so many different ways that you can use this, as technical to fiction, correct? Yeah, and so like even like I'm looking at the spray paint, and now I'm starting to think about how it was used in graffiti and as a clue, and part of your clue for your murder mystery that you began. So so many different ways that you can have your creativity and spurned into great ideas here.
Yes, and of course, the point is, of course, the other people in the group can start ideating also, and probably would. And if one of the things we can illustrate here, you pointed out, these objects, like, okay, there's spray paint, that could also figure into the mix of stories. As a matter of fact, I could immediately imagine spray painting something in the telescope to ruin the telescope.
Right, right. And sorry, I was multitasking. I meant to say sparked. Ideas sparked, not spurned.
Well, yeah.
We want to create ideas, not push them away.
That's true. Well, yep. If somebody spray painted your telescope, you would be very unhappy about it. You might then bash in their head with the telescope.
You never know.
Yeah. Now let's look over here at some of the others.
Okay. You want to go to this table where you're standing?
Yep. And I'm standing in this table so we can actually see. Well, let's see. There is one of the storm.
This one. This one's This one's a little bit longer because it's about character creation.
And actually, most of the stormtroopers in Star Wars did not have much character. They didn't have that many lines. They didn't have any lines in most cases.
Right, but it could be a lead character hiding in a stormtrooper suit.
That is indeed what it could be. Or it could be Luke Skywalker hiding in a...
Right, you never know. Mm-hmm. You never know. So in this particular one, I mean, character creation could be a semester study all on its own, right?
Oh, yeah.
But definitely the avatars on the table help you kind of develop your skills into making sure you can write out the visual, because the idea with characters, of course, is that you want people to be able to create that visual with their eyes, to be able to see the character even though they're just reading the words.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully the tips and the characters that are offered are helpful to create that.
And you don't want to don't want to be simply describing. One line that I really liked in the original Star Wars movie was Leah's comment to Luke as he comes in a stormtrooper outfit. She says, "You're a little short to be a stormtrooper, aren't you?"
Yep.
That was a good line.
Yeah, which of course is will call to your attention that this is Luke. He was a young, perhaps not fully grown male. Well, let's see. Is there any other?
I believe there's 15 exercises around the room. Mm-hmm. So the one that we skipped is write about 5 ridiculous things you'd like to try once. Mm-hmm. Ridiculous things are always fun.
Well, yes. Well, and I guess some people can imagine impossible things, and even imagine a bunch of impossible things before breakfast, as I recall.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, oh, and here I see, I'm looking over here at the sun, and I see that, let's see,
Right.
what is this to be used for? The sun.
All right, this is about describing your scene to engage the reader and help them feel like they're sitting in the environment with you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's talking about the sun is just an example. Write about the sun as though you love it, write about it as though you hate it, so that you can get different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And the sun is just an example of how you would begin to to create an environment where your readers feel immersed.
Mm-hmm. And you would perhaps notice that it was freckled with little yellow spots. It is mostly a red face, but freckled with little yellow spots. Mm-hmm.
And the heat coming off of it, or the lack of heat coming off of it, maybe you expect it to be hotter, or how it feels at sunrise and sunset.
Mm-hmm.
What's different about it? Maybe if you're on a long trip and you're traveling down the coast, how it looks different from north to south.
And how it even feels when it's on the horizon, right in on the road in front of you.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think now let's see. Is there anything else we should consider?
Well, I just would encourage anyone that likes to write to come through and do these exercises. We do change them up every now and then, just to give you some variety. But we also, as a writer group, we have several novelists that work within 3D Web Worlds, and we meet every Tuesday night at this time at 9 p.m. Nate, or 10?
Well, I think we've been 10 p.m. Eastern.
10 p.m. right now. So
Usually
10 p.m.
9,
Eastern.
yeah.
Right. So 10 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. And so if you like to write, or if you like to read original material, you're welcome to join us. And we also invite anyone that has a creative writing class to come in and use the resources. And if you need some assistance, don't hesitate to contact us.
Yes. And because we love to think of ideas.
We do, and we'll definitely help you. If you're working with a class, we'll definitely help you get situated. And if you're just if you're an individual and like to write, feel free to use our resources, and we'll be happy to brainstorm with you if you need a pair of ears.